Today I ventured out to the windy climes of downtown Brooklyn, wherein I took the train and steppeth offeth and made my way towards Brooklyn Heights. But in between these two locales, I met up with one Steve Guttenberg, aka the Audiophiliac. You may know Steve as a longtime contributor to CNET, and before that, Steve wrote for such illustrious publications as Art Dudley's Listener magazine and, of course, Stereophile. I think he wrote for Audio as well. But behind the scenes, Steve Guttenberg is a big mover and a shaker. Never mind that he has the best audio channel on YouTube, the Audiophiliac Daily Show, close to 200,000 subscribers. Steve is one of the best people I know, and Steve has helped me an awful lot. Steve is the reason I got into Stereophile magazine. Steve is the reason I even started my own YouTube channel. He said, "You should start a YouTube, young man, and go forth and multiply." Neither Steve nor I have multiplied. We're not breeders, but we do our bit out here on the interwebs. So I cornered Steve in his beautiful apartment full of high-tech, strange-looking audio equipment, and he gave me his top 5, 6, or 7 jazz vinyl picks.
I want to start with Larry Corio, because Larry Corio was a biggie for me. Because I started seeing Larry Corio at the Village Gate probably, I'm guessing, around 1970. This is before, as far as I can remember, before 11th House. And he's playing electric, and Elvin Jones was in his band, and it was like Jimi Hendrix but jazz. And it was so exciting. And he was maybe 5 or 6 years older than me, and I was into it. I would go there, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a year, because he played a lot at the Village Gate, and it was a great club. I don't know if you ever went there, but it was really good. It was really spacious, really comfortable. I saw a lot of people there, but definitely Larry Corio. So, and I bought a lot of his records, but I don't know what happened to the rest of my vinyl. This is sort of the greatest hits. But he was amazing to see. And the thing about Larry Corio is that many decades later, he made a bunch of records with Chesky Records, the audiophile label. So I got to hang out with my hero from Long Gone Far Away. And it was so interesting to watch him work at sessions, because the way he thought about the music and the way he just the way he worked was really interesting to me, because I'm not a musician. I'm the furthest thing from a musician. I remember one day he comes in after taking, he's really listening intently. I mean, differently than most musicians do after a take, because usually they're listening critically to themselves, but not like Larry did. And I said to him after he stopped listening, I said, "What are you listening for?" And he said, "I'm listening to where I'm running out of ideas. And like I'm listening to figure out where that was boring, where am I going to go when I play this again?" And I thought, wow, that is really interesting. And he did this record with Chesky called The Coriels, where he had his 2 sons with him, Morale and I can't remember the other son's name. And he did this one thing on acoustic guitar, and I think it's called Transparent or something. And it's a really, really hard to play tune, and his 2 sons are not playing, and he keeps screwing up, and they keep urging him on to play it. And they're like, yeah, you're almost there, almost getting. He just kept trying and trying. Finally, he nailed it. And he was just such a musician, is what I'm saying, throughout his whole life. It's one thing to be intense when you're 20 years old, but to still be that way when you're 70 and you're on the road. I think he died basically on the road, right? So he never slacked off. He made a gazillion records. And it was great that I saw him when I was young, and I saw him, near the end of his life, and he was just a sweet man, and it was great. Ellington on Pablo. He made a lot of records for Pablo. But anyway, this one, the intimate Ellington, I think this is just scraps. It's not like a whole session. It's just bits of this and pieces of that. But that first track, Moon Maiden.
Moon Maiden, way out there in the blue. Moon Maiden, got to get with you.
Which he's not exactly singing, he's talking. He is or he was. This is all 1970 and 1971 tracks. And he's like the coolest man that ever lived. He's just feel his presence. It's just so beautiful. Every time I hear it, I've been playing this record for a really long time. It's like I want to be that cool. It's just so beautiful. But anyway, I don't think there's another Ellington quote vocal. This might be the only one, Moon Maiden. But the rest of it is just typical. But it's small groups, duos, trios, small groups. But anyway, it's a wonderful record. But to start with that, with Moon Maiden, is extra kind of nice. So, and the cover is right up there. I like a lot of Wes Montgomery, but I think if I had to pick one, I think this is the one. Just because it's fiery, it's big. It's not just like it's big sounding record, but it's his sound and it's his tone and he's got it all. He's like the complete package. So much of jazz guitar players, they come across as kind of noodly. They're just kind of playing lots of notes. He doesn't ever sound that way, that he's just playing a blizzard of notes. It seems like every note on a Wes Montgomery record counts. It's there for a reason. That's amazing. You know, as I say those words, it's like, I wonder why I never feel that way about him, but I feel that way about a lot of other jazz guitar players. His tone, his phrasing.
How many Wes albums would you have, you say?
On vinyl, I don't have that many. He also had, there's not that many interviews that you can see with him on YouTube, but he seems very grounded. This record, I wish I could tell you why, but I remember really liking this record. I don't remember why, but yeah, I saw him with somebody. But and this record and the one that goes with it with Sonny Rollins, these are amazing sounding records. These are like so audiophile, pardon the expression.
I don't know those at all.
You don't know these? Yeah, recorded by, of all people, Tom Dowd. You know, he recorded Layla. He's everywhere.
Ray Charles?
Yeah, Mingus, everybody. Pretty much everybody on Atlantic was recorded by Tom Dowd. He was in high school. He gets out of high school and he's basically, quote, drafted into working on the Manhattan Project. Next thing you know, he's recording Aretha Franklin. So that's kind of a varied career.
Well, what's audiophile about that record?
Well, the thing about this record is it's very like, it's a You Are There sound. It doesn't feel close mic'd. It feels like you're in this space. It's very open. Like you just feel like you hear the room. You hear the space because it's a live recording. You just feel like you're in this. You're occupying the same space as the musicians. It's really good. It's very sparse. But there's like it's like this. I don't know if they ever came out as the same record, but also the same thing with a similar cover with Sonny Rollins. I'll tell you, I saw MJQ at the Blue Note Club, and pretty late. And the thing that was really impressive was that, they in that club they get on stage by walking through the audience, and they were so nice to people who were like saying, "Hey, how you doing?" Everything. They stopped, they shook hands, and when they got on stage, they seemed really happy to be there. It was just an act, but they seemed into it. They would play these tunes, hundreds of times, but it felt fresh. It felt really good. That's what you want. And then this record? This is a relatively new record. This is like sampled Blue Note stuff.
Tell me why you like that, because that leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
I think it moves. I think it just has a great feel to it. The way it just moves and just the samples kind of work together. It doesn't just feel like just patched together crap. It just has it just kind of carries through. The spoken word pieces make sense. It just doesn't feel like they're dropped in, you know. And it sounds good as for this kind of music. It makes sense. So this is the Herbie Mann.
Right.
Okay, it's on speed. And yet another Atlantic. Herbie Mann, I don't think is your bag. But this is another, you know, there's a lot of Herbie Mann at the Village Gate, a bunch of them. It's that open mic sound. Nothing is close mic except probably Herbie himself. And you just sense this expanse, like all the instruments are being picked up by multiple microphones. I doubt there's probably more than 4 or 5 microphones. And it's a relatively big group, recorded by Tom Dowd. And, you know, Herbie Mann at Newport is the same, around the same time. I guess this is early 60s. I think it sounds phenomenal.
I had one of those. I thought it sounded really good.
Yeah, really good.
Music was happening.
Yeah. Now, Herbie Mann did a record for Chesky, and he was a royal freaking pain in the ass. He was not a nice guy. He was very fussy about his sound, and because he wanted like a reverb and on his flute, and I'm like, well, we don't really do artificial reverb. And he was like, well, that's part of my sound, and blah blah blah. And it's like, yeah, but we're making a record that sounds like you, like your flute. And they're like, it was not. He wasn't. There was a disconnect between what he wanted his record to sound like and what David Chesky wanted his record to sound like. So it was kind of. So I like. I mean, he made a million records, and a lot of them were totally forgettable. But there's enough good ones in there, and he was a big proponent of Afro-Cuban music. So, because we were talking before about, you know, why doesn't Atlantic Records get any respect in terms of like Blue Note and stuff? Yeah, it's not Blue Note, but there's a lot of great artists that were on Atlantic, like Ray Charles, you know, Charles Mingus. There's good people on that label. He played on a Chesky record, a really early Chesky record. That was amazing, man. I had no idea who he was. I knew it was a big deal, but I didn't know who he was, man. The guy had massive charisma. You can, you know, if you don't know who somebody is, you go, oh man, that guy's a big deal. But you can tell that he's a big deal without knowing who the fuck he is. It was intense. The guy just like took over the room. He walked in and like, yikes, there he is, kind of deal.
Because everybody knew him, or just?
No, because other people knew him for sure. But and I was told, you know, like he's coming. He didn't just show up. He was supposed to be there, kind of deal. But just because he sang a duet with a Chesky artist, Brazilian artist, so that's why he was there. He was doing basically a favor, so he was there. But you know what he did is he said to David, this was recorded at RCA Studio A, so it was a huge studio. You recorded symphony orchestras in that room, right? So it was just like a piano, a grand piano. I'm pretty sure it was just a grand piano in the middle of this gigantic studio. And he said, I want all the lights in the studio turned down or off, and just candlelight on the piano. And he wanted a certain whiskey. He was going to drink whiskey, you know, I guess on the piano. I don't remember the exact details. But he wanted a certain, you know, whiskey. He wanted candlelight, and he wanted the lights way down. And he basically nailed it in like 1 or 2 takes. And it was pretty wonderful.
What do you like about that record in particular?
it's very produced, but in a really beautiful way. It's very, it's slick without being, I don't like slick, but it just kind of has a great feel to it, the way it just moves. It's very Brazilian in the best possible sense of just having this ease of movement. Like, only in my wildest dreams could I ever move like that kind of thing, or have that kind of feel. So when you listen to this kind of music, if you're unfamiliar with Brazilian music and you have any curiosity in it, this kind of music would be the way in to get what what bossa nova is all about. You know, the girl from Ipanema. That's him.
You've seen the clip with him and Sinatra, obviously.
Oh yeah.
That's just like, good God! I mean, there's chemistry and magic right there.
What I love about
Jobim
him
is right on any level you want to put him on next to a Sinatra in my book.
Yeah, but what I love about that combination of Jobim and Sinatra is that obviously Sinatra is stretching to get there, and he's okay doing it, right? Like, he's fearless. Sinatra's fearless about doing it, and that's something right there. And in one of the outtakes of "Girl from Ipanema," I got a mouthful of words to get through here, guys. Telling the band, like, give me some space here, because I got to get through this jumble of words or something like that. And just hear him talk like that. Because, I've always heard that Sinatra didn't want edits. Like, he wasn't like, you just didn't edit a Sinatra tune, right? So he's just going to do a take, and that's it. So I had an engineer tell me something, that when he worked on a Sinatra session, the band would rehearse to do like one or two tunes, right? And he said, and they would be in there getting tight. Sinatra would come in, he would say his hellos to the guys in the band, and then they would like, okay, we're ready to do it. And that was it. No, like, we're going to try it this way, let's do it faster, let's do it slow. No. It's like, we're just going to do it. We're going to do it once, maybe twice, and we are done. And he says, thanks, and leaves, right? He's a total 100% pro. Now, of course, with something like the Jobim thing, which was not his thing, I'm sure they had to do more. But on a normal record, because this was a record that this guy was telling me about, this was in probably the late 60s, early 70s, that Sinatra would just, they'd call a session, he would do one or two tunes at a session, and they would be done.
Thank you very much, Steve, for your top 7.
All right. Well, that was 7.